Hi again, this is Dr. Bruner, the author of the Marketing Scales Handbook. Now, this is the second video in the series I'm making to show how Volume 5 can be used to find and select a scale for your research. In this second video, what I'm going to focus on is what to do if there are multiple alternative scales that you're trying to choose between for some purpose. As I explained in the previous overview video, for any theoretical construct, there could be many measures developed over time to measure that construct. Now, this complicates research, and it complicates interpreting results because it leaves us always wondering if the different results that are achieved, are found, could be due to the variable of interest that you're actually studying, or did they merely occur because you used a different measure? For example, let's say you were studying your customer's purchase intention now compared to a year ago. If you use a different scale and you find there is a different amount of purchase intention, that leaves you wondering if the difference is due to a true change that's occurred in the market over the year, or if it's due to you using a different measure. See, that's why I always suggest that people consider what they're going to compare their results to, and then try to use the same scale as possible. Now, on this page of the table of contents, what you see there are at least 6 purchase intention scales. Actually, there's 2 more down there, 489 and 490, that are slightly more specific measures of purchase intention. And actually, elsewhere in the book, there's more general measures of purchase intention. I call them behavioral intention because they don't necessarily have to do with purchasing. They could be used for a variety of behaviors. Anyway, what if you were trying to choose between 2 measures of purchase intention? Let's compare, for example, what would happen if you were looking at number 483 and number 487. We're looking now at number 483 of the over 700 scales in the book, and this one has to do with purchase intention. And this is the scale description section. And what I try to do in this section is give information about 3 things, if possible. Number 1, how long is the scale in the sense of how many items are used to measure that scale. 2, what kind of response format is used with this scale. And how many points are on that scale? Is it a 3-point scale, a 5-point scale, a 7-point scale, 9, 11? And by the way, most of them tend to be 5 or 7. And then, of course, maybe what's most important of all is what is it that this scale is supposed to measure? Now, I sometimes have an easy time figuring that out, and other times it's very, very difficult to figure out what it is it measures due to the complexity of attitudes and psychological constructs. Now, in this case, the scale is more like a Likert type scale in the sense there's going to be statements that the respondents are going to in some form agree with or indicate some kind of level of likelihood. There are other types I'll refer to in just a minute. Now, since this scale was used by many researchers over time, in fact, uses go back over 30 years, I can't give a certain number of items that have been used. Various versions of the scales have been used. And that's what makes it difficult for me, is when they don't use exactly the same scale, I have to decide whether to review them together or review them as if they're different scales. But in this case, the ones I have listed here are ones that are more similar than different. Now we're looking at the actual scale items themselves. And this is where you can begin to get a better sense of whether this is going to fit your purpose or not. Is a phrasing of these items going to fit what you're doing? For example, if you are indeed trying to figure out whether people are going to buy something in a store or the likelihood of them buying it in a store, then this could be appropriate. On the other hand, if you were trying to study something more like, let's say, investments, where people are going to purchase stocks or bonds in the future, or if people were going to purchase services of some sort, then this would not be as an appropriate scale. So what we're going to do now is look at another one you could compare with this one and decide maybe which one's better for your purpose. Now, in some ways, number 487 is very different from the previous one. It's not a Likert type scale, as you will see in just a minute when I show you the items. In fact, it's more of a semantic differential. Also, it does not refer to a store, so maybe it's more useful in a wider set of circumstances than the previous one. If there's a negative, it could be that this one's only been used once as far as I know, so therefore if you're trying to build upon the widest amount of research that's been done, maybe this one's not the best one. Here are the three items composing the scale, and as you can see, a semantic differential tends to give sort of opposite statements or terms or phrases that the person's going to lean more towards than another with some kind of scale. Usually a 7-point scale would separate the two ends of the poles. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea about how to begin the process of choosing between alternative scales of the same construct, but I realize I didn't go through all the fields there. In the next video, I'll explain why a researcher should strongly consider using a multi-item scale rather than just cherry-picking one or two items from a scale. But also I'll talk about why the issues of reliability and validity are so important and why I provide that information and how you could use it to make your choice.